Welcome back to the Crypto World channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now we are seeing Bitcoin short positions begin to close, and we're beginning to see Bitcoin long positions open back up again, which is dangerous for the Bitcoin price in a downtrend. On top of that, I'll be looking at some on-chain analysis later in this video for Bitcoin. Also, I'll be covering some Bitcoin news today and what's happening in the US dollar currency index, which is impacting the current Bitcoin price. All of that and more in this video, so definitely stick around to the end so that you don't miss out on any of this important information. And just before we jump into it, you might as well leave a like down below. And if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe with notifications turned on for more updates just like this every single day. But with all of that out of the way, let's get straight into what this video is about. So right here on the Bitcoin US dollar chart on the daily time frame, we've got our Fibonacci levels here on the logarithmic settings. And over the past one day, the Bitcoin price hasn't really moved that much, so I will be keeping this quick. Basically, we're still trading in between the 78.6% Fibonacci level coming in at around 35k and the golden pocket coming in at around 40,000 approximately. So regarding those two levels just there, this area of support and this area of resistance, obviously if we start breaking above the resistance, that is bullish for the Bitcoin price and could lead us into a reversal. But if we start breaking below 35k with confirmation, then that could possibly lead us into another leg to the downside, and the next major support in that case is coming close towards the May, June and July lows coming in at around 30,000 approximately. Not only that, but the daily RSI for Bitcoin is still technically in a downtrend, forming lower highs. So this is also something that I'm paying attention to, because if we start breaking out to the upside here, eventually when that happens, then that could be a signal telling us that Bitcoin is about to reverse. But as of right now, I want to make it clear that we have not seen that signal just yet. We've also got a similar thing here on the 3-day chart for Bitcoin. I'm not going to take too long on this chart as well, because I did cover this in yesterday's Bitcoin update video. But if you're new to the channel, all you need to know is the 3-day RSI is also in a major downtrend. We have just reached into oversold territories, but we have not confirmed a reversal just yet. Now, if we start breaking above this descending line of resistance, then in that case, that could be one of the first signals to let us know that we are potentially beginning some sort of reversal, like what we've seen time and time again throughout years worth of Bitcoin price history. But as of right now, we are not seeing that just yet. We are technically still in this downtrend here. Now looking at the Bitcoin short positions on the Bitfinex exchange, and this is on the 6-hour time frame, what we have seen this year so far is pretty much only the short positions continuing to increase. So that means more and more people are beginning to bet on the Bitcoin price going even lower. But just recently, as in over the past couple days or so, we have seen a small decrease in the short positions, which could mean one of two things. First of all, this could just be the Bitcoin short positions taking some profits on their positions, or we could have a group of traders that were previously shorting the Bitcoin price, but are now convinced that Bitcoin might not go any lower, and so therefore they're closing some of their short positions. And at the same time, we are currently seeing the Bitcoin long positions open back up again. So this is still just in the shorter term, talking about the 6-hour time frame on the same Bitfinex exchange. But if this sort of thing is happening while the Bitcoin price is still technically in a downtrend, we haven't actually confirmed a reversal just yet, then this is simply dangerous for the Bitcoin price, because if Bitcoin does end up breaking below 35k with confirmation and starts a second leg to the downside, then that could potentially liquidate a lot of these long positions, which in that more bearish scenario could send the Bitcoin price even lower. But if you're looking at the Bitcoin funding rate across all of these exchanges right here, we're still seeing a decent amount of negative funding rates, but they have risen since a couple days ago. So for now, this is nothing too bad, because obviously the funding rates aren't extremely positive or anything like that. And we usually see extremely positive funding rates if we're seeing a lot of long positions open back up again without the demand for new short positions. So for now, this is just something to keep an eye on, because if this does continue any further, then that could potentially be a bearish signal for the Bitcoin price, at least just in the shorter term. Because don't forget, we still have a decent amount of open interest that we still need to squeeze out of the Bitcoin market. For anyone new to the channel, this right here is the Bitcoin estimated leverage ratio, and right now it hasn't really moved that much over the past couple weeks or so. But this is also something to keep an eye on, because if we see a sharp drop off in this estimated leverage ratio, like all of these other sharp drop offs that we've seen throughout Bitcoin's price history, then that usually results in a liquidation event of some kind. So for example, a long squeeze or a short squeeze. But looking at the total amount of Bitcoin that is sitting on exchanges right now, the Bitcoin on exchanges is still declining, which means big players are still getting involved and moving a lot of Bitcoin off exchanges into cold storage. The last time that we saw a decent drop off in the Bitcoin exchange reserve was back during the September correction, when a lot of big players were accumulating Bitcoin during that bearish price action. And obviously you can see what happened in October, which was a decent move back to the upside. And then in more of an extreme example, we have what happened at the end of 2020. Obviously we had a massive amount of Bitcoin moved off exchanges, and that trend lasted for multiple months. It started in around August 2020, and Bitcoin was still getting withdrawn from exchanges all the way way up until around November and December 2020, which basically set up the Bitcoin price for that huge move to the upside from around 10,000 to 60,000 US dollars. Now, obviously, we're not seeing anything of that scale right now, but we are seeing the Bitcoin decline from exchanges, which is technically more of a bullish thing than it is a bearish thing for the coming months for Bitcoin. But keep in mind, this does not mean we're going to be bullish tomorrow or anything like that. This is simply more of a long-term indicator, as in looking over the next few months or so. And not only can we confirm that Bitcoin whales are accumulating right now because of this chart, we can also back that up by looking at actual Bitcoin whale addresses. This right here is just one of many Bitcoin whales that are accumulating right now. Back in November, so only just 2 months ago, this Bitcoin address right here had less than 4,000 Bitcoin, but right now this Bitcoin address is holding nearly 30,000 Bitcoin, which means this Bitcoin whale has accumulated nearly $1 billion worth of Bitcoin in just around 2 months. And it's not like this Bitcoin whale is just buying once every few days or so. They are buying millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin every few hours. We can actually see this in the Bitcoin transactions. In fact, right now, the recent transaction was over 3 Bitcoin, so over $100,000. And that was less than an hour ago at the time of filming this video. In fact, I have just refreshed the page and they have accumulated another 70 Bitcoin worth over 2.5 million US dollars. So the Bitcoin whales are certainly not messing around. And we can take a look at this chart right here, which shows us the Bitcoin miner reserve. And this works in a somewhat similar fashion to what we saw in this Bitcoin exchange reserve. But instead of showing the amount of Bitcoin sitting on exchanges, this chart right here shows us the amount of Bitcoin that Bitcoin miners are holding. And what we can see right here is that Bitcoin miners are actually accumulating more Bitcoin. They are not selling as much Bitcoin. And more recently, what we've seen this year is a massive accumulation by the Bitcoin miners, which is a long-term bullish signal for Bitcoin. And you might be wondering, well, if there's a lot of Bitcoin whales buying Bitcoin, and if there's a lot of Bitcoin miners accumulating more Bitcoin, how has the Bitcoin price not already had a massive move to the upside yet? And well, that is simply because a lot of this is not happening on exchanges. Of course, when you're mining Bitcoin, it's not like you're going to an exchange and buying Bitcoin. You are actually minting new Bitcoin, which does not directly increase the price of Bitcoin. The same as these Bitcoin whales, they are not buying on an exchange, most likely. A lot of very large Bitcoin transactions usually happen over the counter, which are basically a form of Bitcoin trade that is done off an exchange that does not have an effect on the Bitcoin price. Now getting into some Bitcoin news today, we have Russia finally opened back up to Bitcoin. It was only around a week ago that we had all of this bad news about Russia wanting to ban Bitcoin. So anyway, what we have here is the head of financial policy at Russia's Ministry of Finance saying that it is necessary to regulate, not ban Bitcoin. So in my opinion, this whole situation is just another reason why we shouldn't hold too much weight to what's happening in the news, because you can see how quickly this whole story has done a 180. Once again, it was only around a week ago that Russia was saying they were wanting to ban Bitcoin, and now they're saying that they no longer want to ban Bitcoin and they want to regulate Bitcoin. Now taking a look at the US dollar currency index on the 3-day time frame, just recently, as in over the past few days, we have seen the US dollar continue to climb to the upside, which is actually not good for crypto, because if Bitcoin is paired against the US dollar, and if the US dollar is rising, that puts extra pressure on the Bitcoin price against the US dollar. So basically, the US dollar currency index and the Bitcoin price almost have a negative correlation, as in if this chart is going to the upside, it usually means the Bitcoin price is going to the downside and vice versa. We've seen this sort of thing happen in the past. For example, at the end of 2020, leading into the beginning of 2021, we saw the US dollar currency index have a massive drop to the downside, which means the Bitcoin price was very bullish during that time period, which of course it was. It went from around 10,000 to 60,000. And then looking a little bit further back at this other downturn in the US dollar currency index, that massive move to the downside was happening throughout the entire year of 2017 when Bitcoin was experiencing a major bull run. But on the flip side, looking at this massive move to the upside in the US dollar currency index, that was back during the year of 2014. And during that same year, we saw the Bitcoin price in a Bitcoin bear market after the 2013 bull market. And looking at the next time that we saw a decent move to the upside in the US dollar currency index, that was right here. And that year was 2018 when Bitcoin was in a bear market. And technically speaking, especially with the recent move, we are still in this uptrend on the US dollar currency index because we have just recently broken above this previous high. So we are technically still making higher lows and higher highs, which is bearish for the Bitcoin price. But with that being said, we possibly have some light at the end of the tunnel because we had this previous W pattern, which has almost played out. Looking at the price target for this pattern, that price target is coming in at around 97 to 98 on the US dollar currency index. And what's very interesting is if you're bringing out the Fibonacci retracement tool from this high at around 103, 83 approximately, down to this low at around 89 approximately. What we have is the golden pocket, the 61.8% Fibonacci level, which is the most important Fibonacci level, and that is coming in at pretty much the exact same area on the chart as the price target for this W pattern. So once again, that is coming in closer towards 98, and right now at the time of filming this video, we are currently sitting at around 97. Now, it's important to mention that there's never any guarantees, but with that being said, there could be a good chance we could find resistance at this golden pocket, which is also the price target for this W pattern once again. And if that's the case, and if we're lucky to see a reversal from that point, then that could possibly be bullish for the Bitcoin price. But as of right now, we are currently not seeing that. This is just something to pay attention to moving forward. And if you want extra Bitcoin content throughout the day, just like this, make sure you follow me over on my Twitter, and the link to my Twitter is in the description down below and also in the pinned comment. If you made it this far in the video, you might as well leave a like down below. And if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe with notifications turned on so that you don't miss out on any of these important updates that I post every single day. As always, I appreciate all of your support in the channel at the moment. I can't thank you enough. And before you click off, you might as well check out one of these uploads if you haven't already. But that is it for this update. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.